now move on to the next speaker, Vivek Sharma ji. Vivek Sharma ji is going to talk about lesser studied story compilations and kavyas, exploring governance, leadership, and statecraft. He is an assistant professor in the Department of Higher Education, Government of Himachal Pradesh. Let me give an introduction to Vivek Sharma ji. Dr. Vivek Sharma is an assistant professor in the Department of Higher Education, Government of Himachal Pradesh, currently serving as Government College, Solan. He holds a PhD degree from Punjab University, Chandigarh, focusing on the analytical study of interrelationship between Shakta Tantra and Jyotisha. His academic journey includes a Master of Arts in Sanskrit language and literature and a Vishishta Shastri honors in classics from Himachal Pradesh University, Shimla. Dr. Sharma's field of specialization encompasses the study of consciousness and self, Shakta Tantra in Tantra studies, the philosophical study of time and direction in Jyotisha, and the concept of Sambandha in Vedic schools of Indian philosophy. His research interests extend to trans-Himalayan studies and the application of computational linguistics in Sanskrit. He has a distinguished record of national and international conference presentations. He has presented 7 papers at the 19th World Sanskrit Conference in Kathmandu and has also presented at the 18th World Sanskrit Conference in Canberra. Dr. Sharma is a published author of creative works in Sanskrit and research papers. He has received recognition including the first prize in poster presentation at the 22nd International Congress of Vedanta. He is a life member of the All India Oriental Conference and has served as a convener for the Jyotisha section at the 19th World Sanskrit Conference. Dr. Vivek Sharma ji, over to you.
Thank you for the kind introduction. I would like to begin by extending my sincere gratitude to Indica for the I would like to begin by extending my sincere gratitude to Indica for this esteemed opportunity to share my research. My special thanks to Dr. Nagraj Paturi and the Honorable Vice Chancellor of Indica University for his guidance and for creating such a vital platform for these important conversations. Many excellent speakers have explored these texts in isolation, what I will be presenting to you. Our unique journey today will be to connect them, revealing how story, compilations, and kavyas function together as a holistic developmental curriculum designed to shape a leader's mind from foundational statecraft to the ultimate challenge of self governance. In our world of constant political turmoil and corporate leadership crisis, we find ourselves searching searching for new models of governance, for better ways to lead. We look to the latest business books, the newest political theories, hoping for an answer. But what if the most profound, most battle tested principles of effective rule are not new at all? What if they are lying dormant, waiting to be rediscovered in a galaxy of wisdom most of the world has forgotten? Imagine for a moment you are tasked with training the next generation of statesmen and leaders. Where would you begin? Would you hand them a dense textbook on policy, or would you start as ancient India did, with stories? In classical India, the journey to becoming a wise ruler didn't begin in political science class. It began in a living classroom filled with talking animals, heroic kings, and brutally honest advisors. Certainly, it is well known that Kautilya's Arthashastra serves as a significant textbook and guiding light in Indian statecraft. However, this is merely one aspect. Today, we embark on a journey that extends beyond it to delve into the intricate tapestry of wisdom found within story compilations and kavyas. We will unearth a hidden curriculum, one that offers timeless practical wisdom on the intricate arts of leadership, governance, and statecraft wisdom that I believe speaks directly to each of us today. What is this hidden curriculum? To understand it, we must first acknowledge the Arthashastra. It is the explicit formal syllabus of statecraft. It is structured, direct, and brilliant. It tells you what to do. But the Indian tradition knew that knowledge isn't just about absorbing rules, it's about cultivating wisdom, character, and discernment over a lifetime. That is the role of the implicit curriculum, the wisdom woven into the very fabric of literature that everyone consumed, from children to kings. It doesn't just tell you what to do, it shows you why and crucially what kind of person you must become to lead effectively. Today, we will follow this curriculum through its three natural stages. First, the foundation, the psychology of power, and the foundations of statecraft. Second, the crucible, the mechanics of governance and statecraft. And third, the mirror, self governance as the root of good governance. Our journey into this hidden curriculum begins where all deep learning begins, with simple, powerful stories. Here it is a traditional outline of from the Panchtantra manuscript. It is a illustration from the web. The Panchtantra, which is basically we can say the core science. The basically it is the fables of the Niti Shastra and the case studies. The Panchtantra and Hitopdesh may seem like children's books, but they are in fact a sophisticated curriculum in Niti Shastra, the classical science of practical wisdom and statecraft delivered through the case study method. So practical was this curriculum, so focused on strategy, risk management, and the psychology of power, that to bridge it to our modern world, we might think of it as the original master of business administration. The foundational casebook for the study of Niti is the Panchtantra, which I see as a raw, unfiltered casebook of human nature. It presents real world scenarios: gaining friends, losing them, the consequences of rash action through allegorical characters. The chapter titles themselves reflect this event driven case study approach. Mitra Bhed, the loss of friends; Labd Pranash, loss of gains. It is designed to give a young mind a visceral feel for the dynamics of power. So, we have one example for the case study: a failure of governance. Let's look at a classic case study from Mitra Bhed. A powerful Lion King, a head of state, forms a strong alliance with a bull, a powerful ally and a key strategic partner. Two cunning jackals, disgruntled ministers or internal rivals, see this alliance as a threat. Now, a textbook might just say divide your enemies, but the Panchtantra shows you how it's done. It gives you a master class in psychological manipulation. The jackals don't attack directly, they whisper, they plant seeds of doubt, they exploit the lion's pride and bull's insecurity, creating the perception of betrayal. The result is the complete destruction of a powerful alliance from within. This is the timeless lesson in how misinformation can destroy trust in any organization from a startup to a nation. This isn't just a story about an unwise ruler, it's a case study in a failure of internal security and intelligence gathering, two core pillars of governance. The king's system for vetting information was compromised, leading to the collapse of a key strategic alliance. It teaches that the governance of a court is as important as the strength of its army. But the genius of Indian tradition is that it doesn't just create a casebook, it refined it. Centuries later, the Hitopadesh takes this same raw material, many of the same stories, and reframes it. Look at its four subdivisions: Mitralabh, gaining friends; Suhrid, Bhed, separation of friends; and then crucially, Vigrah, war; and Sandhi, peace. With these additions, the Hitopadesh transforms from a book about human nature into a primer on statecraft. It is explicitly teaching the foundational elements of the Shadgun, the six measures of foreign policy. What does this tell? The Hitopadesh is no longer just a storybook, it's a structured political science textbook using the case study method. Its framework maps directly onto the core principles of statecraft, the Shadgun. It takes the psychological insights of the Panchtantra and organizes them into an explicit political curriculum. The student learns not just what happens, but begins to categorize these events into formal strategic concepts. The author himself tells us this in his purpose. श्रुतो हितोपदेशोऽयं पाठवं संस्कृतोक्तिषु वाचां सर्वत्र वैचित्र्यं नीतिविद्यां ददाति च. He who hears the Hitopadesh gains proficiency in Sanskrit, expression, elegance of speech everywhere, and knowledge of Niti. So, if we make a comparative focus, then we can see what is the pedagogical style, who are the audience for whom these fables were written. So let's we pause and make analytical lens. What is the comparative focus of this foundational stage? The pedagogical style, it is allegorical narrative. The target audience is foundational learners, young minds. You can say in the age group of 6 to 16. The instruction, it starts as implicit in Panchtantra, learning from outcomes, and evolves to become more explicit in Hitopadesh, where outcomes are categorized into political theory. This is stage one, learning the fundamental, often rash realities of human nature and strategy through clear, unforgettable narratives. From this foundation, the student enters the crucible of kavyas. Here, simple morals give way to complex realities. In the great kavyas, the principles of statecraft are tested against the chaos of moral ambiguity, ethical dilemmas, and complex human relationships. First, we see the blueprint of ideal leader in Kalidas Raghuvansham. The very first chapter describes the kings of the Raghu dynasty. We are told they are born of impeachable lineage, yet humble. They are powerful, yet forgiving. They pursue knowledge in their youth, worldly success in their prime, and spiritual liberation in their old age. But the most profound principle articulated here is one of economic governance. Kalidas offers a stunning metaphor for taxation and fiscal policy. He says the king only collected taxes from his people for the purpose of returning that wealth to them, just as the sun draws moisture from the earth only to give it back a thousandfold as life giving rain. So, you can see a model of rule based on welfare and reinvestment, not extraction. This is not just a prajanamiv bhutyartham satabhyo balim agrahit. This is not just a poetic metaphor, it is a foundational theory of public finance, which I call generative governance. This principle stands in stark opposition to any model of rule based purely on extraction. It is a direct counterpoint to austerity, establishing that the goal of governance is not to hoard wealth but to create prosperity for the entire commonwealth. But what happens when this ideal leader from the Raghuvansham is thrown into a crisis? For this, we turn to Bharvi's Kiratarjuniam, the ultimate leadership simulator for the leader's internal struggle. And the other text we can compare side by side, that is the Shushupal Vad, where we find the external cabinet. The Pandavas are in exile and the debate is ignited by Draupadi. In Kiratajnyam, the first Sir, you find the Pandavas are in exile and the debate is ignited by Draupadi. What she says, she was burning with righteous anger. She urges Yudhishthira to break the treaty and wage immediate war. She makes a powerful case for Vigraha or active hostility, urging that a leader who tolerates humiliation is no leader at all. This is the voice of Kshatriya Dharma, the warrior's pressing duty to act. But Yudhishthir, the embodiment of Raj Dharma, the king's duty to be patient and strategic, counters. He argues for asana, waiting, watching, and honoring the treaty. This isn't a simple debate between right and wrong. It is a high level strategic discussion about timing, a masterclass in the tension every leader faces: the demand for immediate emotional action versus the wisdom of long term principled patience. The text offers no easy answer. Instead, it offers us to weigh the variables and manage our own impulses and principles under pressure, just as a real leader must. Next, we find the Mars Shishupal Vadham, which presents the leader's external counsel. Krishna has to decide how to deal with the belligerent Shishupal. He calls a council. His brother Balram argues for immediate, overwhelming force, that is, Vigraha. His advisor Uddhav presents a brilliant, nuanced argument for diplomacy and strategic patience, Sandhi and Asan. He argues that a rash attack could consolidate Shishupal's allies, while a diplomatic approach could isolate him. Krishna, the master statesman, listens to both fiery emotion and cool logic before making his decision. These two epics are the ultimate simulators for a leader's mind and a leader's cabinet room. These two epics are simulators for the two arenas of policy formation. The Kirataljunium explores the internal cabinet of the leader's own mind. The Shishupal Vadham simulates the external cabinet of ministers and advisors. Together, they demonstrate the complex mechanics of governance in action, how counsel is taken, how options are weighed, and how strategic decisions are forged. This is a high level deliberation on pure statecraft, exploring the tools of foreign policy, Vigrah, Asan, and Sandhi, not as abstract rules, but as choices with profound ethical and practical consequences. Now, if we come to the comparative focus of these three texts, Raghuvansham, Kiratarjuna, and Shishpal Vadham, we can say in this crucible stage, the pedagogical style it shifts to complex narrative and nuanced debate. The target audience, young adults, leaders facing real world dilemmas. And the thematic emphasis moves from basic ethics to the sophisticated application of political theories like Shadgun within ethically ambiguous contexts. Stage 3 basically it is the mirror stage where the student reaches the most advanced and most difficult stage. What can we understand from the mirror? The ultimate instruction, the Rajopdesh, a direct instruction to a ruler on the perils of power and the psychology of self. Ban Bhat's Shuknasopadesh is the ultimate Rajopdesh, a direct instruction to a ruler on the perils of power. Although it is part of a Akhyayika, you can say Katha, in the Kadambari, which is a kind of a romantic novel full of mystery and full of twists and turns. But here you find the ultimate Rajopadesh, a direct instruction to a ruler on the perils of power. The minister Shuknas tells Prince Chandrapid that the greatest enemy is not external but internal, the intoxicating nature of power itself. We now arrive at the final, most advanced stage of this curriculum. The leader has learned the basics from fables and wrestled with complexity in epics. Now he must face his greatest enemy himself. This is the Shuknasopadesh from Ban Bhatt's Kadambari, which I call the ultimate executive coaching session. The Vice Minister Shuknas takes the young, brilliant, and powerful Prince Chandraped aside just before his coronation. He doesn't offer policy advice, he offers a brutal, unvarnished warning about the corrupting nature of power itself. As he says, गर्भेश्वरत्वम अभिनव यौवनत्वम अप्रतिम रूपत्वम अमानुष शक्तित्वम चेति महतियम खल्व अनर्थ परंपरा. Basically, what we find in Hitopdesh, Yavnam Dhan Sampatti Prabhutvam Avivekita, this is a refined version of that, where it is the Yavnam in the Hitopdesh, it is Abhinav Yavnatvam. That is the uh, youth, which is the starting in the young age. You can say the teenage or initial young age. He tells the prince that youth, wealth, sovereignty, and power are a recipe for disaster. He describes royal wealth, Lakshmi, as a fickle and intoxicating force that blinds even the wisest. He says it's like a blinding dust storm of pride that makes it impossible to see clearly. Shuknas warns that a leader's court will be filled with flatterers who will amplify his worst instincts. He explains that advice, especially good advice, is the most difficult thing for a powerful person to hear, describing it as unpleasant to the ear like a bitter medicine. This text is a masterclass in leadership psychology. It teaches the most crucial lesson of all, that the primary task of a leader is the governance of their own inner world. Because the text's core argument is that corrupt leadership psychology is not merely a personal failing, it is the primary source of corrupt governance and failed statecraft. This is the final lesson. A leader can master all the strategies from the Hitopadesh and all the debates from the Kavyas, but if they cannot govern their own mind, they will fail. Let's apply our comparative focus. The pedagogy, which is here the direct, didactic instruction. Audience, the mature leader on the cusp of power. The ruler, like the Chandraped, he was going to be the king uh, sooner than later. So, for them, those who are at the stage of becoming would be leaders, for them, this is the best uh, psychology, leadership psychology, a text on leadership psychology. So, it is the mature leader on the cusp of absolute power, and instruction is intensely explicit, focusing on the psychological pitfalls and the paramount importance of self governance, which is Atmasayam, as the foundation of good governance. So, when we focus on how, other than Arthashastra, what we have fables, we have epics, Mahakavyas, and in those Mahakavyas we have Gadya Kavya, which focus on the self-realization or self-governance or controlling the basic instincts of especially of immaturity, the young age, the pride, the wealth. So we have seen how this implicit curriculum functions as a holistic system for mastering the art of rule. It begins with the foundation, teaching the psychology of power and the basic rules of statecraft. It moves to the crucible, training the mind in the complex mechanics of governance and policy deliberation. And it culminates in the mirror, revealing that all effective governance and wise statecraft must be built upon the bedrock of leaders' own self governance. This is the genius of Indian knowledge system. It understood that a prosperous state is not built on policies alone, but upon the wisdom of its statesmen and the character of its leaders. And that process is a lifelong journey of learning, reflection, and self mastery. So, my point is not just to focus uh, that we have statecraft, leadership, and governance ideas in uh, Asian text other than Arthashastra, which is also the point. But the main point is that we can craft the curriculum also, a curriculum that is based on the ancient Indian knowledge system, how it goes, how it starts from the foundation, then it moves further, and then it's move further for basically it is for lifelong learning. But how we have to introduce in our curriculum in the modern day society, basically for that I have focused. And these the text, these are just only tip of the text that I try to make comparison or make some relevance I'm presenting here. There are many kavyas, many of has been spoken of, but there are others that we can make comparison and a refined curriculum based on those texts. And one thing also we must remember that not each and every verse or the every story we find in Panchtantra or in Hitopadesh might be of the same relevance in today's time as that was in the previous ancient time. So we
Vivek
have to
Sharma ji,
yes.
you have 4 minutes more.
Okay.
Okay, okay.
So we have to make that understanding also. So now these texts teach us that true leadership isn't just about power, but about dharma. It's not about winning, but about sustaining. And this ancient wisdom is not a relic of the past, it is a live, breathing roadmap for a better, wiser future. So, what we have explored today is just a glimpse, not a vast ocean of wisdom. There are dozens of other texts and traditions that offer equally profound insights. Um, I will uh, ready for the questions and discussion if there are any. And if this exploration has sparked your interest and you would like to continue this conversation, I share my ongoing research and thoughts on my YouTube channel, and my website will be launching soon. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Vivek Sharma ji. It's a very useful topic. You have covered both the narrative compilations and the kavyas. I see no questions in the question and answer box, so let us.